This problem and all other Calc 152 problems can be found here at Sarai Studies. Link is in the description box below. Here we're given a polar coordinate, so a coordinate with radius r and angle theta, and we're trying to find the Cartesian point or Cartesian coordinate x, y that this polar coordinate represents. So our formulas, so we need to find x and y. So the formulas for those, I like to remember it like this. So if you have a unit circle, all of the points, the way that I remember it is if you have a unit circle, we know that all of the points are really cosine, sine, and so on, but we really think of it as x and y. And by the way, I remember that cosine comes first because c comes before s in the alphabet, so cosine is with x and sine is with y. So for x, cosine is its partner, and then for y, sine is its partner, and then you just add r so that it multiplies to those. And that's it, those are your formulas. So to find x, you're going to take the radius, which is the square root of 2, times cosine of pi over 4. And so you would go to your unit circle, and by the way, I do have a video on how I derived this exact unit circle. You don't have to memorize it, so watch that if you are not comfortable with the unit circle. But the idea is we want cosine of pi over 4. Pi over 4 is over here. Remember, c comes before s in the alphabet. Cosine is square root 2 over 2. And sine will also be square root 2 over 2. So we'll keep that in mind when we get to this part. So we have that cosine of pi over 4 is square root 2 over 2. When you have the same thing under the same root and you're multiplying them together, you're just going to get the stuff on the inside, which is just 2. I'll prove it to you. If we do this times this, well then this becomes 2 times 2, which we can write as 2 squared, and we know that square roots and squares are inverse operations, so we're left with 2. That's just algebra. And then divided by 2, we're left with 1. So this is equal to 1. We're saying x is equal to 1. So now we know what our x is. It's 1. Now what is y? Well, right, it's equal to the radius, which is square root of 2, and times sine of theta, which we know is pi over 4. And again, we saw it earlier. Cosine and sine for pi over 4 is the exact same thing. It's square root 2 over 2. We bring down the radius, and this is exactly the same thing we had here, so we know that this is equal to 1. We're saying y is equal to 1, so we have that y is equal to 1. And now we have the Cartesian point, or the rectangular point, or just the xy point, that this polar point or polar coordinate represents. Now remember, when you're going from polar to Cartesian, a polar point can only represent one Cartesian point. So this point cannot also represent 1, 2, or 4, 3, which are different points. It can only ever represent one. But when you're going the opposite way, when you have a Cartesian point and you're trying to find its corresponding polar points, there's actually multiple corresponding polar points. And I explain why in the first example video when we go from Cartesian to polar. So go ahead and watch that if you're interested. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next.